I got married for the first time at the age of 21. It happened on the ocean in California. My wife was not very smart, although she was beautiful, and shy, but extremely loving girl, who before me, as it turned out, had slept with half of the college soccer team where I studied. Why I married then, and I do not know myself, probably fell in love with a beautiful face and long legs. But as they say, what's done is done. For a while, about 2 years, we lived at her house with her stepfather and mother. I worked nights, came early in the morning, and went to bed. My wife and mother-in-law worked in a small grocery store. My mother-in-law, Sylvia, was even better than her daughter, a woman of amazing beauty, with a figure shaped like a guitar, with beautiful large breasts, smooth rounded hips. In a word, she attracted me much more than her daughter. By the way, my mother-in-law sympathized with me and flirted with me modestly. She would casually pass in front of me in her underwear and shriek in surprise, or bend over for the cutlery, as if not knowing that I was in the room at that moment, or throw a magazine or a newspaper describing the history of the relationship between the son-in-law and mother-in-law. I haven't taken any action yet, but over time, the emotional tension in my lower abdomen has been building. Since my mother-in-law doesn't work, and I work the night shift, we are often alone with her during the day. One day, I woke up in the middle of the day, went to the kitchen, and saw my mother-in-law sitting at the table in her nightgown, massaging her neck with her hands. "What's wrong?" I asked. "My neck hurts, so I'm in agony," she replied. "The doctor prescribed me a preventive massage, but I can't go for it." "Could you please give me a massage? You're a massage therapist. You graduated from massage courses, right?" "Sure," I offered. "Thank you, dear," my mother-in-law said gratefully. I started with her neck, then moved on to her shoulders, and finally her back. I suggested she lie on the bed for a full massage. It would be more comfortable that way. She was hesitant at first, but finally took off her shirt. From that point on, I started giving her a massage daily. Gradually, she got used to my touch and even asked me to rub her back in the bathtub. However, I went further and started washing her whole body. At first, she protested and said that it was indecent, but I convinced her to see it as a medical procedure, and she seemed to be satisfied with this explanation. I felt a strong desire that I couldn't contain. I couldn't wait to give her pleasure in a more adult and pleasurable way. However, just as I was about to spring into action, I entered the kitchen and found my mother-in-law in tears. Concerned, I asked her what was wrong and learned that her husband had been on edge all morning and they had had a fight. Wanting to help her relax, I offered to give her a soothing massage. I was already tense myself. I undressed her and started massaging her, but she couldn't help herself and laughed and said she was ticklish. To calm her down, I started stroking her head and even kissed her. Surprised, she asked what I was doing. I told her to shut up and relax. She didn't resist, and I achieved what I wanted. Afterward, she confessed that in all these years, no man had ever given her such pleasure. We cleaned up and had dinner together. As my mother-in-law was clearing the table, I saw her bend over and we repeated our sweet encounter, this time on the kitchen table. From that moment on, I became her favorite son-in-law. Even after my divorce from her daughter, I still visit my former mother-in-law from time to time. My discreet trysts with Sylvia continued even after my divorce from her daughter. We both understood that it was a purely physical affair, two consenting adults finding pleasure and escape from the tedium of everyday life. Sylvia had made it clear that she had no intention of leaving her husband or having a serious relationship with me. And I had no desire to marry a woman who was not young enough, although she was very beautiful and desirable. We were happy that our secret affair was casual and discreet. When I was transferred to a daytime schedule, the opportunities to be alone with Sylvia diminished. But I still managed to sneak over to her house a couple times a month when her husband worked overtime. We would spend hours greedily devouring each other on every surface in her living room, and we no longer had to restrain our desires since there was no one else home to eavesdrop. and afterward, we would lazily lie on the couch, chatting about innocuous topics as if we had done nothing wrong. As the months passed, the frenzied love energy between Sylvia and me smoothed out into a comfortable intimacy. The raging lust still remained, but now it was tempered by sincere affection. We still hid the nature of the relationship. Neither of us wanted to ruin our lives over it. And so it went on. My energetic and irresistible former mother-in-law welcomed me into her bed whenever fate allowed us to spend a few happy hours together. It was a perfect, discreet arrangement, giving us both the thrill of the forbidden without any complications or obligations. At the time, I was 29 years old and married to Victoria. To my surprise, my mother-in-law, a stunning woman in her 50s with an attractive physique, caught my attention. My father-in-law was often absent, leaving her alone or going fishing with friends. As a consequence, she felt neglected. When she was alone, she often invited me to visit on various occasions and showered me with compliments. She praised my height, strength, and even complimented my eyes and lips. Gradually, I began to realize that she had developed feelings for me. One day, my wife had to go to another city for a few weeks to solve some family problems. After a few days, the lack of intimacy began to take its toll on me. Suddenly in the evening, my mother-in-law called, invited me to dinner, and jokingly offered to substitute for my wife. In response, I playfully told her that she would indeed be my wife in every way. She giggled and ended the conversation. Her words lit a fire in me, and I hurriedly headed to her apartment. When I arrived, my mother-in-law greeted me in a short white dress. I cast a quick glance at her alluring figure, admiring her slender legs and seductive curves. She put her arms around me, kissed my cheek. I could smell her delicious perfume mixed with the scent of shampoo and shower gel. It was obvious she had prepared for my arrival by taking a bath and applying makeup. We sat down at the table, ready to enjoy a meal together. She offered a drink, and I graciously accepted the invitation. We finished our wine and struck up a conversation that eventually turned to more mature topics. When I complimented her graceful, shapely legs, she grinned and admitted that she used to have legs of even greater beauty. Doubting her words, I playfully offered to test this assertion with my own experience. To my surprise, she readily agreed. After discreetly shifting the conversation to another direction, we snuck into the bedroom and ended up on the bed. There we did what adults do. Never before had I felt such a thrill as I did with my mother-in-law. Despite our unconventional relationship, we maintain a positive rapport and occasionally allow ourselves to fantasize. These encounters remain strictly confidential and known only to the two of us. Over the next few months, my mother-in-law and I continued to meet secretly every chance we got. We always made sure to meet only when my wife was away or busy. My heart pounded with excitement and anticipation every time my mother-in-law called me or texted me with an evasive dinner offer. With each meeting, our intimacy grew deeper and more adventurous. We began experimenting with risky role-play scenarios that we had never tried with other partners. I was fascinated by her creativity and great appetite. However, the more time we spent in each other's arms, the harder it became for me to separate emotion from our physical connection. I began to daydream about her throughout the day, counting down the hours until I could be with her again. I began to notice small details, like how cute she squelched her nose when she laughed, or how her green eyes sparkled when she looked at me with unpredictable desire. Further, I silently, secretly continued to meet my mother-in-law every chance I got. Our stifled passion and dangerous attachment grew steadily, hanging over us like the sword of Damocles. We both realized we were playing with a fire that could potentially destroy our family. But the intoxication of intimacy and the intensity of our connection kept us from stopping. We could only hope that we could stay on this roller coaster of euphoria and anxiety for as long as possible before the inevitable crash came.